Well, welcome, guys, to the New Day podcast. And today we have a special guest, Britton, who is our new creative director, worship leader, and he was also born in the year 2002.
So this is the moment where the moment's finally come where we are now interviewing the younger guy.
Yep.
We are the old guys that don't get it and we don't understand things anymore.
We're grumpy old millennials.
Yeah, and so we're going to try to understand kids these days. And so, but we are really excited to talk to you, man, and to learn. That's what we're here. We're here to learn.
Yes. But we are calling this podcast like Gen Z Interrogation because, Britton, you're the voice of your generation.
Born in 2002. Man.
So I my first question just has to do with what social media are you on? Do you get on Facebook at all?
I get on Facebook to use Marketplace to look at guitars and stuff, but I'm on Instagram and TikTok and Snapchat.
All right, describe Facebook in one word. This
Old.
isn't old. There you go. Facebook is old. All right, John, what do you got?
So for real, Facebook's old?
I don't know. I use it for when memories pop up from 6 years ago, or just to look at
Back when you were was that middle school or high school 6 years ago?
You were probably just wrapping up middle school 6 years ago.
I was probably going into 9th grade.
Awesome, so what is Instagram?
Instagram's just it's just become more of checking up on friends and seeing just where they're at and what they're doing. And then Snapchat is more talking to people and seeing their behind the scenes life. And then TikTok is just everyone trying to get famous.
Hey, speak louder.
Okay.
Speak up, boy. Speak up. We're actually re-recording this podcast because we did it last time and Britton talked too low, and so we had to redo it. So
I can sing, but I'm trying to work on talking.
Real talk podcast.
So TikTok's the biggest one, though. Most people your age are on TikTok.
Yes.
But is TikTok, and we're just diving right in, aren't we? Is TikTok, is it serious? So it reminds me of Vine back in the day. Do you know about Vine?
Mm-hmm.
So it reminds me of what Vine was, where maybe there was a serious aspect to some degree, but mainly, even if it was serious, it was people mimicking another audio seriously to make a point. But is TikTok mainly just do you see it more as entertainment, or is it legitimate community and connection?
It's more entertainment. I mean, YouTube is where you go for education.
Okay, yeah.
And TikTok, there's there's different links of videos that you can make. And they're trying to make 10-minute TikToks, but usually they're just 15 seconds.
Yeah.
It's more for entertainment.
So where do people your age go for connection online? Because the whole thing is people connect online. Is that texting? Where do people connect meaningfully online? Or does that not exist? And that's the whole point of why everyone's so lonely.
On TikTok, they connect, but it's bonding over
dumb stuff.
Yeah, dark humor, basically. And in the comment section, making fun of people and stuff. It's a weird way to connect, but I don't know.
So how is Gen Z humor different? What do you guys find funny?
Well, there was this video on TikTok, and it was a piece of bread, and it fell over, and it got millions of likes, and people were like, man, that was so funny. And I was just I don't know why that was funny, but I guess it was.
I feel like we had that on Facebook back then. It's like this page, it's a cucumber, and I got 2 million likes or something like that. But I was just what do you guys find funny? What?
But you guys find the crying emoji, which I still use it unashamedly. I use it all the time because I think it's hilarious, But I've been told it's the dead face, the dead skull is now.
The skull.
Dead means funny, and whereas the crying emoji is what boomers and millennials use. And
wait, is the skull still in, or is that out?
It's probably over.
I don't like the skull.
Skull is out.
Either, yeah.
I know other people that use it, but I use the laughing face still.
So the biggest one. I know YouTube. I think YouTube is one of the ones that actually kind of bridges the spectrum. I think everyone likes YouTube.
Yeah.
My dad watches YouTube. I watch YouTube. It's funny. The other day I was thinking I was talking to someone and I was talking about how I don't really watch TV. I never sit down on my couch, flip on the tube, and watch a show or I don't watch a lot of sporting events anymore, which I used to be really into. But what I realize is I do watch TV. The way I consume it is different. I'm kind of walking around my house with my phone or outside somewhere. And so I consume probably just as much TV as I ever have. I just do it differently and in smaller chunks, which is the whole new thing, you know? So, but another question I had for you as we're kind of thinking about your generation is, you know, what do you think is something that people don't understand about like your generation? So like there are probably things that people think they understand, like the cliche things, but what is something you think that most people don't understand yet about people your age in general?
Probably like just how open Gen Z is with everything. Like they're very open on what they believe in, like what they stand for. And, like even if it's like things that aren't good, and they still stand for it, and it's like against what they know is to be right, but they're like, well, this is what I believe, this is what I stand for. Then I feel like other generations are just like, why are you so open? Like, why don't you just like fit in with everything else? But that's what I think.
So like, is that why? Because I feel like maybe when we were coming up, there was more like one of the things that's common nowadays is like a basketball player or athlete makes a statement about, you know, a political thing or a human rights thing. And the older generations are like, just stick to basketball kind of thing, you know, like, why are we getting our advice from you? You know, like you're good at like dunking, you know, like, you know, what do you know about the, you know, injustice that's happening in some random country, you know? But I'm guessing, like you're saying, you're like it's all connected for your like generation, and it's very values driven. Why do you think that is though? Like why is that uniquely something like people like I know James, you were talking about like people will like choose like where they shop based upon what they support or don't support. Back in the day, it's like if you had nice shirts, I will go there. I don't care what your politics are. I still don't care what they are, honestly. But why is that such a big deal? Do you think for people your age?
I'm not sure. I mean, I guess with what they believe, like Gen Z, if they believe like a certain way and this store believes that way as well, they'll support them and they'll just stick with that store and be like a loyal customer. But
well, let me ask you this, because you know we were setting up your retirement account, which good job, Britton, at 20. But you were really adamant about, hey, I want to support these companies or invest in companies that reflect my values. So why was that important to you?
So I wanted to put my money supporting companies that had biblical principles, that weren't supporting abortion or supporting anti-biblical things. Because I wouldn't like think of it wouldn't be in the forefront of my mind every day, but it'd be like the back of my mind, like my money is supporting some baby being killed right now. And I don't want that.
Yeah. Well, and I think too, you know, because I feel like, you know, because one of my questions was going to be like, where did tolerance go? There used to be, in some ways, maybe like I don't think a lot of the differences of opinion are new. You know, I think, I mean, for the last 100 years, you know, where we live, there's been people that disagree on things like kind of, you know, what marriage is and, you know, are certain things, you know, acceptable or not. But it's almost like today, like people have a harder time embracing the reality that some people have differences of opinion on those things. And obviously as Christians, like we have, you know, biblical convictions and values. And I guess like I could know someone is not a follower of Jesus, and so therefore they're going to think differently on this. I don't think my conviction is not true or not good to be followed. I just know, well, they're not a Christian, so I shouldn't expect them to follow kind of, you know, my worldview in that sense. I hope they do, you know, but I don't know. It just seems like today there's, it's like where did tolerance go? And in a weird way, I think it's kind of exciting because I think it's like there's a lot more conviction of truth. You know, because, you know, I guess we came out of what was called postmodernism, which was like where truth was gone. That was like our thing where it's like, no, guys, like there is one way to heaven. It's Christ, you know. Yeah, it matters how you live your life. It matters what you believe in. And people are like, well, I don't really know if that's true. Everyone's got their own path. And that's gone. Like the idea that there's like you follow your path, I'll follow mine. Do you think at the core of that there's a level of like when you don't have a relationship with God, almost like people are realizing you can't live without some kind of sense of right and wrong. Or what do you think it is maybe contributing to that sense of just like you say open, which can be a good thing, but it can also be a bad thing. Do you think that maybe your generation's connection or lack of connection to God plays into, a desire to find truth somewhere, to get behind something?
Yeah, I feel like Gen Z will find something that they believe in, and they'll just put themselves all into it, even if it like kills them basically. But I feel like they're just trying to fill that like Jesus hole in their heart basically, and they'll keep trying and putting themselves into whatever they believe in, but it's never going to get filled because it's a Jesus-shaped hole, so only Jesus can fill it, but they're trying to fill it with homosexuality or whatever they want to stand for. But
well, that's another crazy thing too. I was thinking is like, even when you think of like sexuality, how much of a hot topic that's become on so many fronts. Like, it's, like I said, people for a long time have disagreed on, human sexuality and what's right and what's wrong. But now it's a thing where it's like, if you don't think that what I do is okay, you don't like me, And so it's almost like these things are kind of very, and it's not even just human sexuality. It's what I think about anything is wrapped up in who I am. And if you don't think that this is okay, what I do, then you hate me. Is that more so for your generation, do you think? Or do you think we're just becoming more aware of it? Do you think there's something different about people your age versus like maybe your parents' age in terms of that? And why do you think that is? Like, why do people associate these different things with themselves so much, do you think?
I don't know.
Appreciate the honesty.
I've talked to some people and and I said like, just because I don't agree with homosexuality doesn't mean I don't love you. I still love you. I just don't agree with how you're living your life. Mm-hmm. And I was called a homophobe, basically. Like, suddenly, just because I don't agree with them, suddenly I hate homosexuals. And I was like, I don't agree with the lifestyle, but I still love y'all. I'm not going to, hate y'all. We're not here to hate people. We're here to love people. Mm-hmm. But
that's a good segue, I think, for, thinking about spirituality in the church, like what do you feel like are unique opportunities for reaching people for Christ and Gen Z and like loving them like you're talking about? And what do you think are some of the challenges maybe like followers of Jesus face as we try to love this generation specifically?
I think there are a couple unique ways of how Gen Z is reaching other Gen Zers. There's a lot of TikTok pastors, basically, like just people spreading the message on TikTok and coming up on different people's pages. I don't know, just...
Well, an example is, you've got like a brand, dude.
Yeah. Child of God.
Like it's so funny, man, when we first... So obviously, Britton recently came on as our creative director, and he's our worship leader too, and it's funny whenever me and James were talking, it was like when you told us like you had a brand, I was like, that's really cool. I never would have thought of having a brand. And I always joked to like when I was coming up, you wanted to be in a band, and now today you want to have a brand.
Yeah.
But like you have a brand, So, but that's a way you're, kind of spreading the message.
Yeah. Yeah, just putting the message on a shirt. So like if I just have it on my shirt and people can go up and say like, what's up with the shirt? And I can tell them about it, so that it engages them and not me going up to someone and making them feel attacked if they feel like that.
There is a boldness to your generation, isn't there? Kind of what you're saying, Dave. Like there's a boldness.
Yeah.
I think that's a benefit.
Yeah. Like they step out in what they believe in and just go all in. So, yeah. And they'll just tell it to everyone, and they don't care who listens, who doesn't listen. They're just...
So you talked about Gen Z reaching Gen Z, but what about like people watching? I imagine probably most people watching this are millennials or maybe the generation before that. How do you think we're uniquely positioned to reach Gen Z, or what can we do differently, you feel like, for them to be able to listen to us, or vice versa?
I guess for millennials, it's like y'all aren't boomers, so it's like y'all have that upper hand.
Step above a boomer, right?
No. There's boomer, there's Gen X, then there's millennial. We're 2 steps removed from a boomer. FYI.
And we love people in every generation.
Absolutely. But I don't know. I think there's just like millennials aren't super old or like set in their ways or whatever. So it's like Gen Z is like, well, I can like kind of connect with millennials. So I guess there's like that like tidbit of connection.
Tidbit, I like that. I can still beat you one-on-one in basketball, until I get too old, What does Gen Z? So let me describe maybe how I felt like a lot of, in general, millennials thought about God. And then I want you to describe maybe how Gen Z is different in some way, right? I think growing up, when it came to God, there was a lot of like, number one, people just didn't think about God much. It just wasn't even as much of the conversation. God was maybe one option that you could be into if you wanted to. And it was okay if you're into your faith, but just don't push it on me kind of thing. But it was almost kind of like a very kind of apathetic view towards God in general, Some would be really devout, and you're always trying to wake people up to like, no, there is truth, there is right and wrong, But for the most part, I would say kind of like an apathetic, just kind of living a mainstream American life was a lot of people. How does Gen Z think about God? I have a thought, but I want to hear what you think. That's different than that.
I feel like there's like half of them that are like all in, like this is where I'm supposed to be, like this is how life is supposed to be. Then there's the other half that's just like, I don't want to give up my rights. I don't want to submit to a higher authority. I just want to do what I want to do and live my life and live my truth. And yeah.
That's what I was going to say. It's almost like more polarized and passionate either way, it seems like. Would you say that's true?
Yeah, definitely. Like it's either extremely boiling hot or freezing cold.
Yeah, and more vocal about it too.
Yeah,
like growing up, like you wouldn't want to say like I'm atheist. And I still think a lot of people don't, but people when pressed would maybe say I'm agnostic or I just don't believe and I'm living my life, That's good. What do you think in terms of like the church? How do you think Gen Z will shape the church in a good way?
I feel like they'll bring more of like a creative aspect to the church and just Gen Z's touch. I don't know.
Well, how do you guys like, I feel like this may be a personal preference, but in general, how do you feel like followers of Jesus in your generation like engage with God more? Is it like, I'm going to get alone, like read the Bible and journal? That's kind of like what we do a lot. I mean, like, how do you guys engage? Is it through music? Is it through creativity? I mean, how do you feel like you engage?
For me, I don't know for anyone else in my generation, but for me, it's just listening to worship music and driving. But
that's a good one, man. Yeah. Well, and Gen Z seems very communal, I guess, in a lot of ways. And so it's almost like different worship communities in a sense, It's like, oh, we a church? I don't know. We're a community, kind of thing, Which there was some of that in our generation too. That's not necessarily anything new, but it's almost like these kind of niche communities form on TikTok or anywhere else, and people just kind of like dwell in those. Mm-hmm. Do you think though that I know, and this is not just Gen Z, this is COVID, like with the online worship thing, do you think that there's still going to be a big draw to like in-person worship gatherings, because people talk about how like that's not as big of a deal anymore, but then you look at like Passion and it's like, we still do this. Mm-hmm. It looks different than a Billy Graham crusade, but it's like less preaching, more music if we're honest, right? Yeah. But what do you think? Do you think Gen Z will have a high value of like a gathering worship experience in person?
Definitely. Yeah. Like there's online and that's great, but there's just something about being in person that it's just you can't replicate online what you can feel in person. Mm-hmm.
That's pretty powerful, man. It's like the human element.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I don't know about the metaverse.
Mm-hmm. that's Gen A. That's my kids.
Yeah, that's next. That's next. Man, that's good. Any other questions about church?
No, man, I just want to hear any final thoughts you have, Britton, just on just Gen Z or the church. I mean, obviously we're both, me and James are pastors, and, we want to be mindful of this new generation. We love working with you, and the people that are in your age range. I mean, what's just, if you're giving us advice on how to really shepherd Gen Zers towards Christ, what would you say?
Just be loving. I mean, don't shove rules or religion down their throat, and just be loving. I mean, I feel like there's a lot of church hurt that people have gotten rules and religion shoved down their throats and just got a bad taste of church, so they just pushed it away. So yeah.
One more thing real quick. It can be one or the other, it can be both, and do you think millennials more prefer a pastor who is just passionately pursuing God, on fire, great inspiration of what it looks like to follow Jesus and all this kind of stuff, or a broken person that's doing their best to follow Jesus and very transparent about their journey? I know both can be appealing in different ways, but there's a different, I even noticed when I look at different churches, churches don't realize it, but they kind of fall in different categories where the pastor is the man of God, and just has this incredible, just kind of smiling and inspirational, and here's my beautiful family, and, just look at all, wow, God bless, whatever. And there's an appeal to that. And it's good to have an example. Paul said, follow me as I follow Christ, but there's also the broken pastor who's up there, I'm no better to any of you, I mean, obviously with enough spiritual integrity, I'm not I don't care about anything, but, someone who's kind of seemingly, I mean this in a good way, I don't mean this in a negative way, someone that kind of seems to have it together and is following Christ and is going to be our example, or someone who's kind of broken and figuring it out alongside of you. Which one of those two, or both?
I'd say the second one.
Okay.
I feel like the pastor who has it all together, I feel like it creates such a picture of what life should be, and it's well, my life is not like that at all, so I must be doing something wrong. And then the second one, the broken pastor, I feel like that pastor would be more relatable and well, my life isn't perfect, his life isn't perfect, but we're both figuring this out together, and walking through life, walking on our path.
Can I press into that a little bit? We were supposed to land the plane, but I'm controlling this. So, whoa, we're going back up. We're going back up. So, elevate. That's interesting, though. You're saying most people would probably prefer the second, but then you live a lot of your lives online, and you talked about TikTok pastors and people follow those. I mean, how do those two things mesh, where you have an online world where it's all curated, but then you feel when it comes to church and faith, the broken is what people are drawn to. How are they drawn to both of those things?
So again, with the online versus in-person thing, online, it just, everyone creates a picture of what they want their lives to look like. Instagram and TikTok, it's someone's highlight reel for their life, and so they're only seeing the best things. And the TikTok pastors, they're posting the most inspirational things, and it's they're drawn to that just in passing, just swiping. But when you're in person, it's you're looking at this guy, and he's broken, and he's preaching, and he's shepherding you, and you feel that connection with them. The TikTok pastors, it's nice to see them in scrolling, but a broken pastor that's in front of you preaching, it's good to feel that connection.
Well, another thing that's interesting too, as we continue this podcast, we just got good, round two. But it's funny you say that, James, because I was thinking about that too, where I feel your generation loves transparency, but it also loves celebrities. Mm-hmm. And the definition of a celebrity is not transparent. It's fake, and we all know. It's we know it. It's like wrestling back in the day. We know it's fake, but we don't care. You know. And so that is an interesting dynamic where it's and I think that's why we got to be nuanced in these conversations, because there's a lot of things happening, and they kind of are all coexisting at the same time. And so one is I do think transparency is important. I've noticed that the more I open up about my struggles as a pastor, the more people listen, the better feedback I get my messages, I have absolutely noticed that. Whereas I can talk about how, in the past I've really struggled with anxiety, back in the day, you weren't supposed to admit that because it might be bad for the church, for the pastor to admit he's weak, you know. But now it's like, man, people will come in for that, you know. So there's that aspect of it. But there is a desire for like celebrity and these personalities that we just follow, and we know we don't know their life, you know. Like I can think of one like TikTok pastor I love, like it was so crazy. Like he's like this like uber conservative, you know, loudmouth preacher. I mean, saying some good stuff, you know, that's true. But then he got divorced, you know, which biblically, at least for a season, you know, requires you to step out of ministry and figure your stuff out, you know, and gets remarried. And it's like all of a sudden, like no one cares about that. You know, it's like he's all preaching against all these other sins, but then he goes through something and it's like we ignore that. And so it's almost like people, they just want someone to speak their truth boldly because maybe they're afraid to do it. And yeah, he's a broken vessel, but at least he's speaking what needs to be spoken. Why do you think your generation is so drawn? Because like there is transparency, but there's also a clear draw to celebrity. Like why is that? Like what is it about that for you guys?
I don't know. To be honest, I don't know.
It's probably the human condition. Now I'm thinking about it. Like it's probably the human condition. I don't think it's anything new, but I guess in a sense, I just would have thought maybe that'd be less of a deal for you guys since it is all about transparency, you know, but I guess it is what it is, you know?
I guess. I mean, on TikTok, there's like celebrities on TikTok, so like we see like part of their lives through that. And that's not like total transparency, but that's like more transparency than what there was before TikTok. I don't know.
That's good. Yeah. Anything else you want to share to our viewers, to millennials or boomers, whoever's watching?
Bro, we got Gen Z. I guess there's some Gen Z or something.
Some Gen Z.
I see you.
Jesus loves you.
That's a good message.
I like it. Awesome. It's a good conversation. Good interrogation. Hopefully it wasn't too bad for you. But man, we love Britton and love his generation, and I look forward to years to come, man. Thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you next time.